Yeah, I work with WSB. We are an engineering company based out of Minnesota.
What's your name?
Jordan Wine, spelled W-E-I-N. And the rest of these guys, except for Stephanie, who's with you, she's with Robson Rancheria. We are an engineering firm that has an angle on rough fish management, specifically carp, and then for Clear Lake's situation, goldfish as well. They generally have poor implications of water quality and impact of the a normal lake's ecology, native fisheries, and in particular for this situation, the Clear Lake hitch is a big interaction that common carp have. And so we want to figure out what's going on, how many fish there are, and then eventually get to a point where we can apply management opportunities like commercial seining. So these guys, we all drove out from Minnesota a few days ago. The whole plan, actually, while we're here for these 2 weeks, isn't actually to remove any carp, but it's test netting out all of these different areas to see which ones are going to be potential to not have snags or not be destroyed if we're trying to go after some carp groups. And we've got some local recommendations of this being an area that they've seen catfish and common carp fishing going on, and it's pending any kind of discovery of obstacles on the bottom of the lake or any kind of large changes in depths. This could be a pretty good spot, but the best way to know really is to actually test by putting the seine out like you'd be doing it for real, to see if there are any problems, and if there are, if they're kind of small isolated ones, we can do something about it. But if it's, say, we run into a boulder patch on the bottom of the lake, it's just not going to be somewhere possible, and so we want to save time and money when the rubber hits the road, and we actually want to get as many carp out as we can. You want to jump in?
We're here today to do a feasibility study for carp and goldfish removal out of Clear Lake. So we're just we've radio tagged approximately 30, combination of 30 goldfish and carp, and we're tracking those fish, and depending on where we're tracking them, we're running these nets to see in the long run if these are feasible areas that we can actually perform a large-scale removal in the future. So today we're just testing to see certain areas, if the nets will get hung up in certain areas. We're not removing any fish right now at this time. It's just strictly just testing it.
So you're just going to dump all the fish back in the lake?
Yeah. So whatever we get, they'll just release them right out.
So what are you seeing in terms of catch in the various other test areas?
They've been pretty good. I mean, the ones that I've been down in the Redbud area, we got a really good test section. Another section was really good, but the bottom was really rough. It would have torn the nets trying to get those carp in, so we had to we couldn't actually see how many carp we would have got caught. It was just getting hung up every 10 seconds. So these nets are really expensive and cost a lot to fix, so you don't want to tear them up. So but yeah, so far, I mean, we're here for 7 days. We're going to try to check out various parts of the lake where we've seen these carp and goldfish, and so we're just hit a spot, go to the next spot, hit it, go to the next, and then we're going to put together a plan of attack in the long run of where we want to focus our attention when we come in for the very large scale removals.
And are you seeing the take as homogeneous, or are you seeing a good variety of species?
It's usually, we got a couple of different species, but in general, where these carps aggregate, there's generally not a lot of other fish that want to hang out with them, which makes it good for us. In general, a lot of fish don't want to be with carp, especially large numbers where you're talking 10 plus thousands of pounds, and that's what we're targeting. That's the whole radio tagging, because it's the tag fish usually will take you where the big schools are. So where we're getting these hits is generally where there's going to be big schools of carp, and in general, other fish don't want to be with big schools of carp. You know, they're big bullies. So, but we did get, I mean, we got a few suckers out of probably, they estimated it was about 40,000 pounds on Saturday that we got. We got probably like three or four suckers and one catfish. So it's really low compared to, you know, what you're targeting. And you can actually see, they're actually pulling in the net very fast. The guy that's in the water, he can keep an eye if there's any bycatch. So it's really, it's actually going to be going in slower than this when they actually try to get fish. So these aren't gill nets. Gill nets are really more lethal on fish. These are just essentially large seine nets. And so they can see the fish, and they're still flopping around lively when they get to him, and he can just throw them right on the other side. So it's a really, really high percentage of mortality for other fish.
And in the wild, what's the impact of high density carp to hitch, for example?
The carp will feed on other hitch and game fish eggs, like that try to spawn in the lake, and they also contribute to really bad sediment loads and phosphorus loadings for lakes, which contributes to algae blooms and water quality. So it's not just the hitch that I think are going to benefit, but also the other game species, especially like when the lake is really low level and there's not a lot of habitat, where a lot of these game fish depend on that habitat for cover for, you know, for their eggs, and any fish that the juvenile fish need cover. You know, if the bass have to spawn on an open beach, they're open to predation by carp and goldfish that just vacuum clean them, you know. So I'm hoping this year, with the water level up, to be able to inundate some weeds, that the game fish will be able to have a little bit more protection, and then combined with doing some large-scale carp and goldfish removal, that we can improve the water quality as well as the game fish populations.